Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss UPSC Syllabus Orientation, Booklist, Pattern, Trend Analysis, Strategy for UPSC Mains 2026 of Disaster Management in case of GS Paper 3 students. This disaster management is going to play a very important role. But what is the one thing with the recent trend analysis? It also shows that from this topic, sometimes there are no questions are also asked to students. So they will be either asking you one question or a maximum of two, sometimes no question also. So accordingly, you need to prioritize this disaster management syllabus and get ready for the UPSC mains exam. Let's focus upon the syllabus component of GS Paper 3, disaster and disaster management. So we need to study what are the various types of disaster and how we are handling this disaster management as well. The sources to be referred is Vision IAS disaster management material. This I have shared in the Telegram group also. Make use of that, students. And coming to the UPSC 2024 previous year question, because in 2025 there were no question asked from disaster management. So let's look at 2024 question. What is disaster resilience? How it is determined? Describe various elements of a resilience framework. Also mention the global targets of the Sendai Framework for disaster reduction. Overall, students, we need to understand and address various components in the question. First is the definition of disaster resilience, then the causal factor, then we need to talk about the various elements of resilience framework and also talk about the Sendai framework. Almost 3 to 4 components we need to talk about, and we can also include diagrams to fetch maximum marks here. Coming to the second question, flooding in urban areas is an emerging climate induced disaster. Discuss the causes of this disaster, mention the features of two major floods in the last 2 decades in India, describe the policies and frameworks in India that aim at tackling such floods. Here also, students, we need to address all the components of the question, especially the question is on urban flood. We need to include various examples and case studies to fetch maximum marks in this answer. Also, the usage of diagram is going to play a key role, students. Accordingly, we need to address this question. Let's look at the pattern of disaster management in GS Paper 3. In 2025, there were no question asked. But apart from that, if you see students, on an average, they are asking at least one question, and sometimes they have asked up to two questions as well. So you can either expect one question or sometimes no question also for the coming mains 2026 UPSC examination based on the trend analysis. Let's focus upon the trend analysis of the topics. Climate disaster link. UPSC is increasingly asking questions students related to national and natural hazard, which is actually caused by human activity, that is anthropogenic factors like urban flooding, cloud burst are very important topics we need to prepare. Other important recurring theme is water based like urban floods, tsunami, dam failure, coastal erosion. Regarding this, sometimes questions are asked. Geophysical, especially related to landslides and earthquakes, institutional national disaster management guidelines, especially related to tsunami, cloudburst, and drought, we need to be thorough. Global frameworks such as Hogo to Sendai framework is a repeated theme in UPSC mains examination and disaster management, students. Coming to vulnerability and resilience, so here we need to be move towards the theoretical and administrative concepts. So accordingly, we need to prioritize our notes, students. And what is the strategy we can take for UPSC Mains 2026? First is institutional static part. While reading the disaster management, focus upon the NDMA guidelines. Accordingly, prepare one-page summary for most of the disasters covering prevention, mitigation, and preparedness. Sendai framework is going to be important. Memorize the 7 global targets and 4 priorities. Second ERC report and third report on crisis management you can use in your way forward or conclusion to fetch maximum marks. And case study, whenever you are using it in your answer, you will be getting extra marks, students, but you should collect at least 5 to 10 success and failure stories. For example, success stories like Odisha cyclone preparedness, especially mission zero casualty, can be quoted. For failure or analysis, try to quote Wayanad landslides 2024, Sikkim glacial lake outburst floods, and Jyoshima land surveillance can be quoted as example for failure stories. And application questions, try to include sponge cities in your answer, especially while writing about urban floods to fetch maximum marks. And answer writing is important, students, in disaster management. Usage of diagram is going to add more marks to your answers. So try to include various seismic zones and even the pre and post disaster loop in your answers. administrative perspective, especially by including way forward, and in conclusion, having a futuristic perspective that includes community participation and early warning system is very important, students. And some of the important topics for 2026 is glacial lake outburst, floods, heat waves, biological disaster, and the usage of technologies such as AI, remote sensing, and drones in rescue and relief operations, especially related to disaster management. With respect to academic marks distribution, disaster management in 2025, there were no question asked. So first to focus on environmental section, move to economic students, then come to science and technology. Then you can focus on internal security, finally agriculture, and at the last you can cover disaster management, students. And coming to the validation resources, try to read the Vision Monthly magazine before the mains examination summary. And second ERC report on crisis management, we should try to make notes out of it to include in our conclusion and way forward. UPSC toppers note I have shared in our group, make use of it, that students. UPSC toppers answer copy and disaster management we have discussed in our YouTube channel, especially on UPSC toppers answer copy analysis. Go through that to get clarity about answer writing format and repairment, students. And current affairs update is going to add more value to our answer in introduction and conclusion. So accordingly, try to prepare for this syllabus, students. In case of any further doubts, you can contact us by reaching out through the Telegram group which is given in the description box below. Thank you, students.